The College Football Playoff Committee had one job to do. They felt the pressure, and they dropped the ball. Their job was to put the 12 best teams in the College Football Playoff, and Paige Dimakos, they didn't do that. They went after feel-good stories.
No.
That's what they did.
No. Not feel-good stories. Here's that SEC bias, okay? He was about to try and give you some propaganda that they didn't do their job, but they did their job because they set out qualifications at the beginning of the year. This is how the College Football Playoff is going to go. And now y'all want to change that because Alabama not in the playoff. Tough shit, Keith. Alabama out because you lost 3 games. And 2 weeks ago, we sat in Stillwater and looked at a horrible, and I mean horrible, Oklahoma team. Beat the shit out of the Alabama Crimson Tide. So guess what? Bye. Lee Corso, bye-bye to Alabama. You done. We're done with that. And they don't lose 3 games. If they lost 2, they're in.
This is not just about Alabama. This
What's
is
it about?
It's about South Carolina, right?
Okay,
it's about leaving Miami out, right? Who has arguably the best quarterback in the entire nation, to put in these teams.
Okay,
you can
let's
sit
start.
there.
Like,
Arizona State, right? Get
they
it?
Won their conference.
They won an average conference. You don't give credit to a fish for swimming, right? You don't give credit to a fish for swimming at the end of the day. You got Arizona State sitting right here. Boise State, right? We know that that's a one-man show. And then you got SMU, who I think that's who they decided to make the statement with, right? We're looking at SMU. We don't even know half the players on that team, right?
No.
But that's what I say. It's a feel-good story, and we've been here before. We've been here, 2-3 years ago when TCU entered the national championship, and they got boat raced by Georgia by 70 points. Who enjoyed watching that?
Okay.
Then we had Cincinnati
play
Alabama in the first round.
Rewind. They beat Michigan to get to that game. So you're going to take them out and not let them have that moment? Bullshit, Keith. You're not letting them do that. They deserve to play in that game. They beat a really damn good Michigan team, a team that the following year boat raced everybody to win a national championship game. You can't make decisions and call the shots based off of what? Eye test for everything? We don't know how it's going to go. It's football.
Well, yeah,
it
but
plays out.
The records, the conferences, can we admit, they're not equal, and that's what this comes down to, right? The
100%.
SEC is Jordan in the 90s, right? To where they have all these championships.
Let me be clear, nothing is Jordan in the 90s.
They won 17 of the last 20 college football championships resides in the SEC. If you want your conference to be better, tell them to win more championships. That's what it comes down to.
I'm with it. But this is a new era of college football, an era that has changed because of the transfer portal, because of NIL. There are teams that are now things are being put on a more even playing field. We saw that last year with transfer quarterbacks like Michael Penix and Bo Nix, who had left teams, gone to different teams, and had a lot of success. Washington made it to a national championship game. That catapulted Kalen DeBoer to get an Alabama job. This is just the beginning of hey, we're going to get to a point where it's more even across college football because people are not going to sit anymore. We're not going to have an Alabama team that has Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram sitting there. Right. You're not going to have guys who are 5-star running backs not playing anymore. And that's the stuff the SEC, specifically Alabama, relied on for a very long time. That shit's dead. It's done. That era is over. And I think everybody else knows that, but the SEC is holding on to this like with death grips, going, please, this is because y'all won like that, but it's a new era. That's why Nick left. That's why Nick's out of college football, because he didn't want to deal with it no more. And he's the greatest coach of all time. I love Nick, but this is a new era of college football that's going to require different tactics to win, and I don't know what that looks like. Yes, the SEC has been the best conference in the last 20 years. What do the next 20 years look like? You don't know, and neither do I.
More SEC dominance.
Okay.
That's probably what it's going to look like. But no, let's apply this, right? Okay. Arizona State is sitting there. What is your confidence meter that Arizona State can win a national championship? 1 out of 10.
A 5.
SMU.
Probably a 4. I think ASU a 6.
You get ASU a 6 to win a national championship?
Coming off of that performance, and they can run the football, play defense. They got a young quarterback and a motivated, and they're gelling at the right time, which matters. They have good chemistry, and they're motivated. We know coaching matters more for college kids than it does in the NFL.
See, I disagree with that, right? And I was there in 2019 on LSU. You know what made us different? We had dudes at the end of the day. Dudes win football games. We had 15 draft picks, right? You go through Alabama, and every time we see Alabama win a national championship, how many draft picks do they have on this team? They dominate the draft. You go through Georgia, right? Georgia, half of Georgia defense plays for the Philadelphia Eagles right now. So at the end of the day, NFL talent on college teams win national championship. Feel-good stories, I'm all for them, right? But that's why they have 40 different bowl games. Put them in a bowl game. We could watch them on New Year's Eve and be happy about it. But when it comes down to putting the 12 best teams or the 12 opportunities of these teams can win a national championship, I don't think that's what they done. I think they did the exact opposite. They felt the pressure of, man, okay, if we put Alabama in, if we put in South Carolina, who you agree with me, is probably the hottest team in college football right now, right? Nobody wants to play them. If we put those teams in, then everybody's going to say that we're biased to the SEC, which that's why I say they folded up to the pressure.
And that's what I want to get to here, because I get it. Listen, there's a part of this that I understand. Yes, it matters. The most talented team, this team, but that doesn't always equate to wins, and those guys don't always show up. And at some point, the wins and losses have to count. You can't just say because this team is talented. Yeah, they're talented, but what do they do with the talent? That's my point. I understand how talented that 2019 team was. But what I'm talking about in the NFL is that you don't change professionals, grown-ass men. You can't say some of that rah-rah shit in an NFL locker room, and it gets guys going. It doesn't. You can't say, if we die, we die, like Matt Rule did for Nebraska. Those guys are laughing at you.
Yeah, I mean, that's Nebraska, and that's Matt Rule.
Okay. Before I go off on you about that, my point is that college kids can be, because they're younger people, they can respond to that more than when grown-ass men who are professionals with families are like, yeah, miss me with that. Like, that's what I mean by the motivational component of coaching. Because Dan Lanning can do that in college football. That doesn't work in an NFL. That's not how it's going to work. Because it's just young. You got 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds. They're much more correct. You can manipulate, you're having them believe in this and believe in themselves, and that matters. And the talent discrepancy, yes, that is a part of it. But I think that's getting shrunk because of the transfer portal and because of the things that have happened. So I want to go to this because you're upset and I'm not.
I'm upset.
Yeah, you are upset. You're upset mostly because of Alabama.
No, it's not.
Let's be honest.
I would feel the same exact way I told you. If South Carolina got in, I was the first person in this football media space, right, that said Clemson will get into the college football playoff because they will beat SMU.
Yep.
I'm upset with Miami. I want to watch Cam Ward, right, see if he can knock off a couple of teams. So I'm just looking at the bottom of this, I guess outside of the top 12, right?
Yep.
You look at Miami, you look at South Carolina, you look at Clemson.
Yep.
Those are teams, like I said, that I look at and I say, hey, these guys have a realistic opportunity to win the national championship. They can get hot and take it all away. I don't feel the same way about Indiana. I don't feel the same way about Boise State. I don't feel the same way about SMU at the end of the day.
And I don't think, listen, that's part of this was going to expand when you get to 12, right?
Right.
Like, everybody complained when it was 4. It wasn't enough. And now we're at 12, and it's not enough. At a certain point, if you won enough games, you're fine.
So I have a question. Should it be the most deserving teams based off of the regular season, or should we look at it and say it's the best 12 teams after we've watched college football? Because I think that's where we're at now, right, where it's kind of trying to find the balance of what lens are we trying to apply?
This is year one, right? The committee set forth guidelines at the beginning of the year, and everybody knew what they were. Okay, so that's the part that I'm having is like, we can argue that the guidelines or the stipulations for the 12-team playoff we don't like. But by the definition of what we set forth, they did that. Because the championship games have to mean something. You can't fault SMU for playing in a championship game. And I told you, if SMU doesn't come back in the second half, right, against Clemson, and they get boat raced, Alabama's in the playoff.
Yeah, but they still lost, right? They came back, but they lost.
Style points matter. Style points matter. That they've told you how you win and how you lose matter. The committee said it over and over again. If Alabama doesn't lose to Oklahoma by 3 scores and get embarrassed on national TV, Kirk Herbstreit sounded deflated talking about that game. Still 2 weeks later because it was that bad. Yeah. They were on life alert. Like, it was horrible. And that's who they are right now. Like, I struggle with it because I saw that Georgia game, and I know how good that team could be. Mm-hmm. But you have to, at some point, be consistent throughout the season, and they weren't. Alabama was very inconsistent, especially on the road, and that's why they're on the outs. That's why they're on the outs.
It brings upon this question too, right? Because this is what they kind of talked about, and I want to dive into this. That if I'm a college football coach and I'm an athletic director, right, and I'm scheduling football games, if you're telling me that whether I have wins and losses matter more than who I played, why should I play these big-time games at the beginning of the season, right? Because we all, as college football fans, the minute that football is back, we get so excited for those week 1 games, right?
Yeah,
It's been LSU, Florida State for a couple years. A couple years ago, it was Alabama, USC, right? It was just LSU, USC when we were in Vegas, right?
Yep.
But why would I risk my team taking a loss at the end of the day if y'all not going to even count the fact that I played tough opponents, right? And I think that's the part where college football fans, we could end up missing out because the college football coaches and athletic directors could say, you know what, if that's the equation that y'all putting out there, that wins are going to matter more than who you played, right? It's just a matter of fact that you walked away with a win, then we're not going to see those big-time matchups anymore.
So that's the part where strength of schedule does matter. It's just not the only factor. And I think that's where it's, if Alabama still had 2 losses, right? That's still 2 losses where a lot of teams, like, they're getting in over a 2-loss SMU team.
Right. So
that's my point, is that, see? And now I got you questioning it because now you're thinking about it.
I'm about to question you.
Why?
Because listen, if I wouldn't have played, if Tennessee wasn't on my schedule and I'd have had another cupcake team, then I'd only had 2 losses. I lost to the number 7.
But SEC already plays 2 less conference games. That's your adjustment.
Okay, listen.
That's your adjustment. Y'all already do that shit.
SMU played Houston Christian.
Okay.
2, right?
Okay.
Like, and if their name wasn't in the label, we wouldn't even know what Houston Christian was.
Everybody does that. Everybody does that. But my point is, the SEC plays 7 conference games, the Big 12 plays 9. That's a massive difference. Playing 2 less, it's like divisional games in the NFL. Those teams know you. They know your tendencies. It's much harder to win those games than it is any other. It doesn't matter the conference. They know you better. They know you better. And so that's where I'm like, the SEC already has the cupcake. They already built this in for y'all. And I'm cool with it because guess what? I understand that the conference is better and stronger. So you get to play 2 less games, and I got to see the damn Citadel. Okay? And I got to see these teams. Every year I'm watching Alabama play some cupcake game in the middle of November going, how the hell is Alabama playing insert whatever team? And it's because the SEC plays 2 less conference games.
I'm going to tell you why. Because the whole Big 12 are cupcakes. And half of the Big 10 is cupcakes. So that's why we ended up in this situation right here. That's how we end up with it. So, but listen, I just feel like I won the argument, right? And
you won. Nobody said he won.
South Carolina, Ole Miss, Clemson, they should have all been in. Take out
Ole Miss?
I would even put Ole Miss.
Let's just put the whole damn SEC in then, Keith.
I'm not mad at it.
No. No, this is college football. It's not the SEC. How about y'all beat the team? Wins and losses matter.
You got to rack up some championships. But
no, I just don't feel bad for Alabama because they lost 3 games.
I'm with that. I see other teams that I think, and guess what? I'll text you when Indiana is losing by 30, when Boise State is losing by 20.
They're not going to lose by 30 to Notre Dame. Let's look at that because they are not losing by 30. They're not losing by 30. What's going to happen? Let's break this down because otherwise it's just going to turn into an SEC hate fest by me. So where do you want to start? Let's start in the bottom right corner over here, SMU, Penn State. And now when you're looking at this as the audience, the team on the bottom is the team that's going to be playing at home. Which is probably the coolest part of this whole thing, right? For the first time ever in college football history, we're going to have playoff games in home college environments, and we're going to have 4 of them, and it's at Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, and Penn State. 4 awesome environments that we're going to get this. So we'll start here. And this is going to prove your point right off the top. So I'm already prepared for it. SMU at Penn State, okay?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Penn State, right?
We're going to pick Penn State.
And obviously the weather is going to play a factor in it, right? Like you're talking about Happy Valley, late December, and probably be 10
cold,
degrees
snowy,
out there.
Potentially. Yep, all that.
So, yeah, I pick SMU with that situation.
You're going to pick SMU
I'm sorry, I picked Penn State. I'm sorry.
You were about to – I was about to say not so fast, Lee Corso. I was like, oh, my God, okay. Yeah, but in this situation right here, I get why you want Alabama there.
Because wouldn't we be more excited if we know that Alabama is traveling to Penn State?
100%.
And as college football fans, we get more excited 100%. About that. We know the matchups, right? We know the big-time quarterbacks. Yep. We know the names. We know what to look for. Yeah. And I think that's why that's the example.
Yeah,
right
and I'm okay with that. I understand that. I just think just don't lose to Oklahoma, Alabama. I'm sorry. Like, it's really like, just don't lose that game 2 weeks ago and we're good. Like, you're a 2-loss team. You still get in. You still lost to Vanderbilt, which shouldn't have happened. You got your gimme. You just don't get another one. So, Penn State moving on. We got the inner Indiana division up at the top, right? Notre Dame and Indiana playing each other. I don't feel great about this game because I'm going to pick Indiana to beat Notre Dame, but I don't feel great about it. Who are you going to pick?
I'm going to go with Notre Dame. Just because the one time I seen Indiana play a tough team, they lost to they lost to Ohio State.
Texas and Clemson is a very interesting game, and
this one's fun. This one's going to be fun. This one's going to come down to what quarterback shows up, right? Like what quarterback is going to have a day, meaning Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers, they both up and down. And this might even turn into the Arch Manning.
Okay. That's I see it trending in that direction already because Texas loses the SEC championship game, and there was a switch from quarterback for Georgia, right? And we saw what happened because I don't think if Carson Beck plays the rest of that game, I don't think they win that game. I think they needed that change. And now Texas fans are going, hey, we know what's behind door number 1. We know Arch Manning's there and we want him, right? And so the noise is loud, probably louder than it's been all season for Quinn Ewers. How is he going to respond, right? How is he going to do? I think Texas is the better team, but I don't feel very confident in Quinn right now. But I'll take him to win. I'm gonna go with Texas because they got more talent and they get to go play ASU and poor ASU.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Texas too. Let's wrap up with this last one: Tennessee, Ohio State. How you feel about that one?
Oh, Ryan Day, buddy. Okay. Ryan, listen, you're going to play a home game, and I'm looking directly at the camera, so I address Ryan Day personally, okay? You have to win a national championship so that people can get off your back about this Michigan stuff, because this was the most inexcusable loss in your career. And what happened post-game was even worse than the loss. You had no control of your team, and you absolutely have to show up at home against Tennessee. Because if you lose that game, I think they may mess around and pay that buyout. Like, yeah.
It's going to happen.
They may go to the collective and go, listen, we know it's going to cost $100 million, but we need him out. And I know it's ridiculous, and I know on paper it looks like it won't happen, but Jimbo Fisher's getting paid a lot of money to not play, to not coach at Texas A&M. So I think Ohio State's going to win, and I think they're going to rally around this because it's kind of like you're a boxer and you're in the corner and you got to fight back, and they got the talent to do it, but I don't feel great about it, Keith. I don't. And it's because, Ryan Day, you disappoint me, pal. You really do. And I'm really tired of it, so I'm going to give you – this is my last straw. I'm not picking you again, though. And I sure as shit I'm not going to pick you against Oregon. So let's just have your one nice win, and you can lose to Dan Lanning in the second round.
Yeah, I've seen enough with Ryan Day. I'm going with Tennessee.
You
know what that Ryan Day situation reminded me of? Like when the rest of your team fighting, and then you over there in the corner asking what's going on, when you have every opportunity to figure out what's going on. It reminded me of, like if you on the schoolyard or something, right? Or you at a bar and you and all your boys get into a fight, and it's that one friend that's standing in the corner acting like he don't see anything because he don't want
what's going on.
Yeah, he don't want any of the smoke, right? And that's what that Ryan Day situation reminded me of. But I'm gonna go Tennessee. That's my upset. I'm going Tennessee. I think they beat Ohio State. I think they go into Ohio State. I think Tennessee is a lot more talented than what people know about.
Yeah.
I think they're a lot better on the trenches than what
Young
people
quarterback
realize.
That's really good.
That's mobile, right? And we've seen Ohio State offense sputter.
Yeah.
And so that's not a gimme. And I think they're going to honestly feel the pressure of being at home. I think that's going to be a lot.
I think the toughest part for them, and it's something Kirk Herbstreit brought up, and it's because he's from Ohio and he understands those fans. They were booing the team at home against Michigan when they punted on that fourth down and close, right? If this gets uncomfortable early, they're going to boo that team.
Yeah, you might see snowballs come out.
Like 100%. And I recognize that is bad for the team, but fans are stupid and they don't care. Philadelphia fans are threw snowballs at Santa Claus. Okay, so like that's out the window. So you need to make sure you come out hot because I think it's like if they're down 10-0, they go down a touchdown, it's going to get ugly there very quickly. So we'll see. It's a young quarterback for Tennessee still. They've got some experience on the Ohio State side, but again, that's probably the one I feel the lead. Like I just don't feel good about Ryan Day. I'm giving him one last shot. It's my last shot.
All right, let's pose this question in.
Okay.
Which team has the easiest path to a national championship?
Ooh.
I got mine.
Okay, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Georgia.
Yeah.
You sitting there first off, you got Indiana or Notre Dame, right?
First
of all, you had a first-round bye. Then you go Indiana, Notre Dame. Then the bottom part of that bracket, two of the teams that I would have kicked out of the playoffs, right? SMU and Boise State sit at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're talking about just big brands and who we believe is the best based off rankings, you're going to be playing a Penn State team, which you very well could beat, right? So I think the tough teams sit on the left side. The teams that could get hot and dangerous. So I look at Georgia, they're sitting with a clear path to the national championship.
You know what sucks is that I'm looking at this for Oregon, and if I'm Oregon, I'm going, man, I got screwed.
Yeah,
I got hosed.
You did.
You got arguably the two toughest teams you got to face right away coming off that bye. I mean, Ohio State, Tennessee, you are not getting a cupcake at all. Like, that's not happening at all. That's got to be changed. That's got to be fixed for this. Because if you're the number 1 seed, you can't be looking at that, and then I'm looking across, and I'm like, hold on a second, the number 3 seed.
What?
That doesn't add up. And that, again, there are going to be kinks with this. And I know Dan Lanning was asked about it, and he's like, listen, you got to win.
Yeah, he said it's another opportunity.
Yeah, it's another opportunity. And that's why, at the end of the day, that's my guy. That's my dude. Because he looks at it and he said, wow, we want the smoke, right? We don't want to win and win soft. We want to win in the toughest way. Now, if I'm him, I'm still looking at this going, damn, this is not, like, what do you mean number 1 seed? This is not a March Madness. And this happens every March Madness, right? Where you look and you see the different regions and you're like, wow, that doesn't
heavily
seem
skewed.
right.
Yeah.
This one is, I think, for Oregon, I'm feeling screwed. And if I'm Georgia, I'm going, oh yeah, send me whatever Indiana team you want. I'm good with Notre Dame or Indiana, it doesn't matter. And then I get to play one of potentially Boise, SMU, or Penn State. I'm good with that. That's definitely the easiest path.
Yeah,
that's
I agree
definitely
with that.
the easiest path.
I guess we both agree on the Oregon situation being the toughest.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Spot. Like, they don't even get to draw Arizona State at any point.
No.
Unless they win out. Last question. We look at this bracket.
Okay.
Who is the Darkhorse national champion that nobody's talking about that you say, you know what, could go ahead and win a national championship?
It's hard to pick a dark horse in it doesn't set up well for that. But if I had to pick one, I would probably go with Penn State. Because I was very impressed with that team. They just played Oregon really well.
They did. They scored more points than I thought they were capable of doing.
Drew Aller impressed me. Their running backs impressed. They got a lot of NFL talent. Abdul Carter, you're talking about a lot of NFL draft prospects on that team. And I think what sets up nicely for them is they have SMU, then potentially Boise. So if you're talking about easy from that perspective, I think they could win both of those games.
Yeah, 100%.
And then they're playing Georgia. And as much as all these other teams, Georgia has been the definition of up and down, Jekyll and Hyde all year long. And so that's where they got the talent, they got the juice, but James Franklin, in the same way that I question Ryan Day, win a big game, big dog. Go win a damn big game, and then I can believe in you. But I could see that. I could see that happening. Are you in agreement, or which team? I feel like you're going to pick Clemson.
No, I'm going to pick Tennessee again. And I think they have the toughest schedule, but I think this team is like, as a dark horse team. Yeah, I think we're going to look back and say, man, they ran the damn tables.
Yeah.
So I would go Tennessee, and my backup would be Clemson, because I think you almost feel like this is the semifinal game, right? Yeah. Clemson and Texas. And so you feel like, hey, if we get to Arizona State, next step, right?
Yep.
And
you got Texas at the right time.
Yeah.
Like, Texas right now.
Why are they confused?
Yeah. I think they're confused. I think they're sad. I think they're looking at Arch Manning going, yeah, at least we got Arch next year, baby. Like at the end of the day, that's the future. And I love Quinn Ewers. That's a kid I told you about. Like, when my brother and I went to a quarterback retreat many years ago, and this kid's got a mullet, and he's in high school, right? And I'm watching him throw out routes, and I'm going, who the hell is that kid, right? He's like 17 years old. And that was as he was going to Ohio State. He got a lot of juice to him. He got a lot of talent to him. And this situation has been, indescribable. To have a Manning sitting behind you, to have had the injuries, to have your coach take you out. It's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure for a college kid. And he came back in that Georgia game we've talked about, where he came back second half, played hard. Like, this has not been an easy path. So I hope for Quinn, I hope he can put it all together, because he's got the talent. He just has to believe in himself. I don't know how else to say that. Or at least, Sark, dear God, man, put some love to your man. Yeah. You got to take care of your guy.
Like how Kirby Smart grabbed Carson back and pulled him to the side.
That was a full embrace.
Yeah, you got to do that. You have to do that with Quinn Ewers, because obviously you're not going to bench him, and so he's going to at least play a half of football when it's do or die.
Let him leave Texas on a good note.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because this is it for him. And we know you got Arch, but he put you back on the map. Don't forget. Yep. Quinn put Texas back. Not Sam. Quinn
did.
They brought y'all to the national. They put you in the playoff. That was getting back. That was putting the Texas brand in a place where Arch does want to be there. And I think that's the thing where I'm like, okay, Like, come on, Quinn. I want to see that Quinn. I want to see that version of Quinn. And if he shows up, they could win it. They could win it all.
No, they could. They definitely could. Listen, we talked about championships, right? But when we talk about the singular award in college football, the award, Heisman.
Yep.
I ask you, obviously you see Travis Hunter is the favorite here.
By a lot.
Yeah, by a lot. Do you think he's the runaway guy for the Heisman at this point?
Yeah, I think we can chalk this one up for a victory for Travis Hunter. Listen, what Travis has done this year is exceptionally impressive.
Yep.
Playing both sides of the ball is nuts. Playing it at a high level is insane. Being elite or number one at your position on both sides is crazy. Like, when we've talked about it at the Draft Network and you guys are talking about it in scouting, you're like, he could be a number one corner and the number one receiver. Now, I know that's changed and we've got some, but he's in the discussion on both sides, which is insane. And he's just like infectious. You watch how he plays, how he dances, how he's dealt with the pressure, all the things that have come about for this. So he definitely deserves it. It's just, it sucks because I feel like it's such a weird one-off situation where somebody's playing both sides. To Ashton Genty's performance this year, which has been unbelievable. Yep. And he's only playing one side, right? Like, he doesn't get the benefit of being like, well, I got two resumes, right? Yeah. Like, Travis comes in, like, how are you going to compete against that? It's like there should be a separate award for Travis, and Ashton should be winning the Heisman. But this is just a strange year where we're not going to get a quarterback, right? Like, the two guys on here, we love Dylan, had a great conversation with him, great guy on an undefeated team, but average numbers, right? They're winning as a team. And Shedeur. So he's not the biggest star on his team.
No, and I think part of that was the pressure, right? I think that his father, right, probably set the bar so high that he would have had to have 4,000 passing yards, 40 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, right? And I also think, too, that people equate winning more with the quarterback. And so if Colorado would have made it to the playoffs and, been a top 10 team, then maybe he'd have been in the running. But looking at these top 4 guys, I have a question.
Okay.
Do you think this is a down year for the Heisman? When we talk about as far as momentum and all 4 of these guys could potentially win it, but as far as what we've seen with the Heisman race, do you look at it and say this was a down year?
I say it's a down year because it lacks Heisman moments.
Yeah.
It's not even, as individuals, their total resumes are great. But usually, like, I can think of Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, like, I can think the last few years where they had, like, multiple games where it was like, yeah, he the Heisman. But then the next week, you're like, oh, my God, look at Jaden Daniels. That's a high. Like, there just wasn't – there was more parity in college football across the board. Yeah. But that also meant less, I guess, star power in moments like this. And so, yeah, this class – and it's weird to say lacks star power when you've got 2 of the biggest stars in college football up there, right? But Colorado's not playing in the playoff. And I think that's part of this. If we've got Colorado in the playoff, this feels a lot different, I think. And because they're not in it, because you've got a Boise State running back in here and a West Coast, you got a lot. Honestly, this West Coast.
Yeah, it is.
I kind of love that, actually. I'm all for that. Let me be very clear. There lacks. Oh, there's no SEC up there. That's funny.
Oh, okay. Here we go. See the shots at SEC.
See how we found
unnecessary.
That? Look at the top.
We were not even talking about SEC.
Look
we were not even talking about
That's very interesting. This is supposed to be reflective of the best players in college football, and you'll notice there is a conference that is not involved. Huh, that's funny.
Oh man, here we go. I'm not going to even respond to that. But I agree with you, and I think this is what it's been. It's been disappointing because the people that we identified early on, the Carson Becks, the Quinn Ewers, right, these quarterbacks, the Will Howards at Ohio State, all of these players that were in position to kind of have one kind of steamroll right their way to a Heisman. It was up and down. The whole entire year was a roller coaster, and I think that's why that ties it all together. There's so much disagreement with the playoff bracket.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one that if you asked at the midway point of the college football season, Cam Ward was going to win the Heisman.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I always thought his was weird though. I thought that it didn't, like, it never really took off. I think
he didn't have a Heisman moment.
Yeah, people mentioned him, but they were still everybody was kind of hesitant on crowning him as the favorite, right? He might have had week 5 and week 6, but that was it.
And I think that's what your first question. I think that's kind of proves that point though. Is like he had moments, but he didn't have he didn't put it all together enough. Yep. And the thing with Cam is he had wow moments because he has wow throws because he's got a wow talent. Arm, right? And that was like, that can only carry you so far when you lose to Syracuse, right, in this last week. Like, come on, guys. Like, I think there were some teams I was really hoping would take it over, like take it over the line. Like, that was one of them, Miami, and then they lose that game to Syracuse, and I'm like, come on, guys.
Yep.
Like, you're in the playoff, then we get Cam Ward. Like, just finish, and they didn't. So that's why the wins and losses matter, Keith. That's why the wins and losses matter. So you can't argue with me anymore.
No, I'm not about to argue with you. We about to have some fun, and what we're about to do is our first edition, the Draft Club Awards, right? So we have our own superlatives that we're handing out. Do you want to read off the categories? I can read them off.
You can read them off. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, well, let's start this thing off at the very top. We're going to go to best college football game of the year.
I know mine. We were there. Oregon, Ohio State. The welcome to the Big Ten for Oregon, right? They play Ohio State at home. Like an unbelievable, to-the-wire. Will Howard learns what time is on the clock, and Ohio State probably wins that game.
Yep, they may win that
Oregon
game.
Storms the field. It was everything we wanted it to be. It was that and more.
It lived up to it.
It lived up to, and almost never in my life have I built something up in my head for sports and it actually lives up to it. This is one of the few times it did. And you had star power on both sides. You had great offenses. You had very intriguing, like, just the whole narrative that Oregon couldn't play in the Big Ten because they didn't have the trenches, right? You saw Josh Connerly, a guy we've talked to. They took that really personally, right? And so that's where it was like, okay, Oregon's going to be just fine. And that was kind of the beginning of that.
Yeah, I'm going to go, and this plays into my SEC bias a little bit, right?
I knew that.
I'm going Alabama, Georgia. I thought that was such a swing of momentum. Alabama putting it on Georgia early, right? Then Georgia coming back. Carson Beck having the opportunity to win the game. Somebody has to make a play. Him and Jalen Milroe, right, going back and forth. The young freshman, Ryan Williams showing up out of nowhere. So I'm going to go Alabama, Georgia with that one.
You know why I chose? So I chose the other game, Oregon, Ohio State, over that one because from beginning to end, it was
good. Yeah, that's true. That was a second-half game.
Yeah, the Alabama game was a Alabama fest.
Everybody cut it off and went to sleep.
That's
why. You was on the East Coast, you went to sleep.
Exactly. And that's why I think that game, literally from the moment the Duck came out doing The Greatest Showman till the end. I know you hate the Duck. We'll get into that. We're going to big board all the mascots at some point. But, I just thought from beginning to end, it lived up to the hype.
All right, cool. Well, let's talk about biggest upset of the year.
This one's easy. This one's easy. Sorry, Alabama fans.
Oh, my God.
Close your ears or turn this off because Vanderbilt was at home.
They was at home, yeah.
They were at home. And Nick Saban said on College Game Day, the only place that wasn't intimidating in the SEC to play was Vanderbilt. And that was a kiss of death.
Nash Vegas
said, yeah, okay, we'll see that. And they put it on Alabama. And they took the goalpost down and took it down the middle of Broadway in Nashville. And I've never seen a crazier scene in college sports. Vanderbilt, congrats. That's like a top upset in college sports history in 25 years. They're talking about that. And poor Kalen DeBoer, man. They had just come off a huge win with Georgia, and they followed that up with that loss to Vanderbilt. And, Vandy played spoiler, and unfortunately that's why Alabama's in the place they are in now.
Yep. I'm going to go Michigan beating Ohio State last week of the season. Ohio State having everything to play for, Big Ten champions, all the pressure on Ryan Day. You know how they say if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Michigan played 4 different quarterbacks, which means what does that mean, right? You don't even have an offense if you got 4 different quarterbacks.
They couldn't complete a forward pass, right? That was what everybody was joking about?
Yep,
That's
100%.
terrible.
And for them to pull that out, I think that was the biggest upset because the talent discrepancy was so far different. Yeah. Will Johnson was hurt. Like we talked about, they had no offense at all, and they just gritted that thing out. Played tough defense.
To my point earlier, Keith, Sharon Moore motivated those boys. Didn't matter that they didn't have as much talent. Sharon Moore came out and said, Ryan Day, you're my bitch. That's what he said. That is exactly what he said. Jim Harbaugh left, don't matter, baby. I'm still here. Sorry, Michigan still owns you.
Yeah, nah.
Until next year.
Michigan dominant. We'll see. I might bet on Michigan, right? It's going to be at Michigan next year, so I'll bet on Michigan to whip that ass next year, too. Toughest player in college football.
Oh, I love this one. Scat.
Yep.
Cam Skattebo.
That's where I went.
Running back ASU. This guy, listen, it took about halfway through the college football season for people to really pay attention to him. But he is, in scouting, we say a lot, a football guy. Mm-hmm. In the dictionary, his face is next to football guy. Yep. He is just everything that embodies a tough-ass football player. He likes contact. He goes for it. They put him in the Wildcat. He will do anything to make his football team win, including get fans off the field when they stormed the field prematurely during that last game when they played BYU, right? He's like, fans, get your ass back in the stands. He's playing. He's a tough-ass dude, and he loves contact. And when you, as a Chicago girl, I love running backs. I love and appreciate running backs. I especially appreciate running backs that love contact, so I went Cam Scatterboo.
Nah, we agree on something. That might be the only thing we agree on, but
Finally.
Cam Scatterboo, I believe he's the toughest football player. You know who he reminds me of? And we're not going to do it because everybody gets into the color situation. And Marshawn Lynch.
You know
Every run is like a beast mode run for him, right?
Comp.
Like it's because he's just so physical. And you know what Marshawn talked about running through people's face. That's what Scatterboo do. He run through people's face every single play.
I think they're from the same Sacramento State, that and he's from Oakland. You're from it kind of gritty part of California. That's very interesting.
They different out there.
Yeah, they build them differently. That's for sure. Scatterboo's a tough dude. That's a tough dude.
That's my draft comp, dude. Cam Scatterboo,
I like
Marshawn Lynch.
I like that. That's a good comp. That's a good comp.
All right, let's go with this. The biggest surprise team of college football.
Biggest surprise team has got to be ASU. A team that came off of having sanctions, right? They had things that this is a team that was totally coming off of a lot of things that they had been dealing with, right? They lost Jaden Daniels. You had a lot. The last few years have been tough here, post Herm Edwards. When Kenny Dillingham got hired, I live in the Valley. People were questioning the hire.
Question marks.
Yeah, very young, very interesting, very lively. Now nobody's questioning that.
Yep.
Nobody's questioning that, and I think that's where he has recruited Texas really well. He has come in and found an identity, and he has embraced the fact that anybody who steps foot on Tempe's campus goes, damn, why can't they recruit here? Because it's it's unmatched place to live, beautiful place to live. And as far as colleges go, great environment. And so I think he's the first guy. He grew up here. He's from Scottsdale. He went to ASU. So as far as people that understand the brand and want it, he's couldn't be better. And I think ASU, a team to pick, they were picked to finish last in the Big 12, and they won the Big 12. That's crazy. So good for you, ASU Sun Devils. I did not pick you to win the Big 12. So I can tell you that I picked Oklahoma State and they finished last. So God bless. God bless.
I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. For all the reasons you just
good.
talked about, them beating Bama, but also pushing LSU to the brink, going to Death Valley, almost beating them. Yep. Tennessee came there, right? It took to the fourth quarter for Tennessee to pull away. And you're talking about being in a conference that we believe is so talented, right? So that's just how much harder you have to fight to even be competitive. And what they did was they snatched 3 kids through the portal from New Mexico State and said, you know what, let's go to war. Now, if I'm the head coach in New Mexico State, I'm pissed because y'all took my guys, right? But at the end of the day, I'm going with Vanderbilt, pulling off that historic win, probably the biggest win in Vanderbilt history, but also now they can hit the recruiting trail and tell kids that we're competitive in the SEC, right? Like, you can be able to recruit Kentucky and all of these other different places.
Nashville, baby.
Yeah, it's still Nashville.
Vanderbilt, you got, I'm looking at the rest of the SEC going, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep.
Come on, Vandy. It's time for you guys to pop off a little bit. It's time for you guys to pop off. I'm with that. That's a good choice too behind ASU.
Yep, let's do this. We just talked about the Heisman, right? Who we believe the Heisman, but who had the most Heisman-worthy performance, right? One singular game.
One moment.
Yeah, one moment.
Travis Hunter, by far. And this one, I'm sorry to all my pokes. I love you guys, okay? So don't take this personally, Oklahoma State. But the day after Thanksgiving, the only game on Friday morning, right? Travis Hunter put a all-time performance together. 3 touchdowns, an interception, both sides of the football. He does the Dion dance perfectly in the end zone. I mean, it was he just, as much as we thought he was going to win the Heisman going into that was he won in the Heisman. That was it. That was a wrap, and it was one of those performances from beginning to end, especially because he plays both sides. He impacted every aspect of the game. And there weren't, as we talked about, a ton of Heisman moments, but that was one where I was like, holy cow, this player is unbelievable. And again, I'm sorry, Pokes. I'm very sorry.
Listen, you went the guy who's leading, right? I'm going to go with the guy that's number 4. Shedeur Sanders versus Baylor. First of all, they were losing at home, right? And everybody was piling on Shedeur Sanders and Deion and everything. I believe they was on a losing streak. They were losing at home. And the performance ends with Shedeur Sanders not throwing one, but 2 Hail Marys. Now, how does he get the 2 Hail Marys? Because he hits the wide receiver dead in the hands. The wide receiver drops the football, right? And at that point, that's the ultimate deflated situation. Like, that's our one chance, right? Yeah. We prayed to God and said, please come down with it, and you still dropped it, right? But Shedeur follows it up with another Hail Mary pass. The wide receiver catches it this time, right? And I thought at that moment, I'm like, okay, Shedeur is going to run away with this thing with the Heisman. I just thought that was a really cool.
That's insane.
No, to throw back-to-back.
I don't know that I would love somebody to tell us. Feel free to comment when this is up on YouTube. Like, tell us that there's another double Hail Mary situation. But, like, that one, it's hard to make a Hail Mary happen unless you're playing the Chicago Bears because we don't like to call timeouts or prepare for what's happening when you're getting a Hail Mary thrown on us. But I think that one, having back-to-back, is insane. Yep. Insane. So, Shedeur, in any other year, if he probably doesn't have that Nebraska performance, he may have won. Like, he just had a couple of bad, really, really bad games. Like, really tough games.
Yeah, so. He did. And just in between. Yeah. Let's go Coach of the Year.
Ooh, this one's easy for me. My boy, Dan Lanning. Dan, first of all, Gladiator as your motivator is the greatest thing of all time, okay? The thumbs down, you're a savage. A savage. He called a timeout in Michigan, told his team on Wednesday's practice, he said, there's going to be a moment where you are in the Coliseum of college football, okay, in the big house, and you look up and you have forced those fans to go home. He said that shit on Wednesday, then he called that timeout in the game in the fourth quarter, and they were on camera looking up at the stands going thumbs down, and I have never seen something so savage in my entire life. And that team out west, that's their whole mantra. They took it personally that everybody thought that they could not win in the Big Ten because it's West Coast soft football. And guess what?
I wonder who said that.
I wonder who said that. People that were wrong. People that were wrong, because Dan Lanning knows how to play football. He came from the SEC. He brought that attitude out to the West, and guess what? Now he's winning a lot, and I think Dan Lanning is the best coach in college football right now, and I think that's going to be for the next quite some time. I'm
with you. I'm just having a hard time into buying some ducks as my mascot, okay, right? But we gonna leave that alone.
Damn mascot is always going to be the sticking point.
I'm out on that damn duck. My coach of the year. I'm going with primetime, baby. He told you at the beginning of the year, we coming, and he bust that ass all year long, right? Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter. He talked that shit, and he backed it up at the end of the day. And we questioned
Nebraska.
We questioned it, though, right? Everybody questioned it. Yeah. Paul Feinbaum said on ESPN, called Deion Sanders a clown, right? They talked about Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. They don't know what the hell they're getting themselves into, right? They talked about the transfer portal and how he's ruining college football. He don't know what he's doing. Guess what? Everybody's copying Deion Sanders now. Yep. Everybody's hopping in that transfer portal. So I'm going to give that man credit right at the end of the day. And especially, you know what is especially tough? As a black man to do it in college football. Because we talk about it in the NFL, college football is way worse as far as the diversity and inclusion situation. 100%. They don't do it there. He went to Colorado, and he made Colorado a popular destination. Yeah. Nobody wanted to go to Colorado, right? No. Nobody wanted to visit there. Even just
the academic component of it, like they said that like 56% more applicants are coming from black kids, like the university.
He's changing it.
He's changing not just football, like the culture around it. Like Boulder had an economic impact of $2 million per football game. Like when you're doing stuff like that, you're changing things dramatically. And as much as you can question some of how Deion handles himself, he is authentic to who he is.
He's getting results at the end of the day.
And I never fault people for being themselves. Like, you can't fault people for being authentic. You may not like what that version of them is, but that's who they are. Yeah. And that Deion doesn't change. He is who he is. He's unapologetic about it, and he deserves a lot of praise because this year they played really well. They were really close to being in it at the mix, and I wish they were in this playoff because it'd be very fun, but he sure as hell deserves a lot of credit.
At the end of the day, he get credit, he talk shit, and he backed it up.
Yep.
Let's finish this thing off on a good note.
Okay.
The last one. The best touchdown celebration of the year.
Best touchdown celly. There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you go first because guess what?
What up?
Out of respect for all the shit I've been talking this whole episode, okay? There is one place that does touchdown celebrations better than anybody. And that is New Orleans and LSU. They start everything. everything. And so I'm going to let you start it off. Go ahead. I'm going to give you your moment. I'm going to give you your flowers.
This is prime example, right? I make the statement that New Orleans is the best city in the entire world, right? And it's first off, 5 years ago, we bought college football to gritty, right? And people are still grittying. Now we're taking over college football again in 2024 with the trip out, right? So I'm going with Kyron Lacey doing the trip out dance, and is about to take over the NFL and college football again. So that's what I'm going with. That's why New Orleans is the best. We trendsetters.
See, I let him have that, and I didn't even fight it with my Chicago BS over here, even though my natural reaction was to go Chicago the moment he said New Orleans. So I think the reality is, LSU always starts this. We already saw it, Malik Neighbors dancing, doing all this. So that's the best dance, but I have to give, for the embodiment of what it means and the audacity to copy somebody, Deion Sanders' dance that Travis did, like, he looked like he must have practiced that shit 1,000 times, because in that game that I talked about, his Heisman moment,
Oklahoma State,
he does it. He does, and it's like, even Deion was smiling, and the announcers made a joke. They're like, I don't know if Deion's going to like this, because that's his thing, right? But Travis deserved it, the way he played. It was kind of encapsulated his last game at Colorado, everything he did, and that moment was really cool. And as somebody who's been watching football for a long time, that was cool to see him kind of give an homage to Deion in that moment by doing that. And so it's not his swaggiest dance, it's not his best dance, but it was the coolest moment I think he had this year. So I'm going with the Deion. I'm going with the Deion.
I'm not mad at that one, right? Okay. I'm not mad at that.
See, we're not fighting at the end.
Yeah,
that's good.
It ended well, right? We started with playoff rankings. We went to the Heisman.
Yep.
We ended with touchdown celebration. That is the full experience here at the Draft Club. I'm Keith Sanchez. This is Paige Dimakos. Draft Club, players only.